Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Quisha King Show, where we discuss faith, culture, and politics, all geared towards the next generation. Today, I have a very special guest with me. His name is Bill Mitchell, and he is the host of Your Voice. Welcome, Mr. Bill Mitchell.
Welcome. Thank you, Quisha. It's great to be on the show.
Thank you so much for being here. So you and I have something very in common. I actually just did your show. And we both walked away, I guess, from the Donald Trump movement, from the MAGA movement. So tell everybody about your story. How'd you walk away? What happened?
Well, I was never involved in politics prior to 2016. And I had liked when Ross Perot ran, I'm dating myself now, but when Ross Perot ran, I liked the idea of a businessman running for the White House, but then he kind of went off on the crazy train a little bit, and that didn't work out. But then when Trump announced, I was like, oh, good, another business person, running for the White House. I'd like to see this happen. And I decided I wanted to get involved. And so I thought, well, how can I have my voice out there? Because I had all these ideas. And I thought, well, I tried to call the Rush Limbaugh show. I couldn't get through. Tried to call Hannity, couldn't get through. And I thought, well, I'll just start a Twitter account. And I'll put my ideas out there. At least I can get it off my chest. And then maybe a few people will respond. Well, it just kind of took off. And once I got to have a big following, then all these podcasters wanted me on their show because they figured all my followers would watch the show, right? Not because they love me, but they wanted my followers. And, I ended up being ranked the most influential, podcaster, most influential person on Twitter for Trump. Wow. In that election cycle, and my Twitter feed did 90 million hits on election night. It was just really a from nowhere to being, a big name story. And I stuck with Trump through 2020. There were things that he did that always bugged me. Some what I call them cringeworthy moments. Things he would say, because I'm a very proper person. I was raised, in a good family where you don't, make these insults and attacks on people. But I was willing to put up with it because I thought, I want to make America great again. I want America first. I want all these things. And nobody else is really doing that for me. So I've got to stick with this guy, sort of warts and all. And then we got into this cycle. I wanted him to pick Governor DeSantis as his VP and have, 4 more years of Trump, and then have DeSantis take over in 2028 and have 8 years there. But Trump wasn't having that. Trump is too much. He has to be the alpha male. And he started to insult Governor DeSantis and so on and so forth. And I was just like, I can't do this. He called him a rhino. He called him a globalist. I can't lend my brand to this. So I decided to jump on the DeSantis train. It was a big earthquake. Lots of newspapers wrote articles about it. Oh, Bill Mitchell, he's given up on Trump. He's on DeSantis and all this. And as you know, we catch a lot of grief about on social media. Yeah. But here I am now, and I'm a big advocate for DeSantis. I'm interviewing their surrogates. I'm posting about him all the time on social media, and I really believe he's going to do well.
Yeah, so do I. So what's the main thing that you like about DeSantis? Like, is there a policy position? Is there a personality thing that you like about him? Like, what is the main thing that you
Yeah, it's like I can get Trumpism, I can get all the Trump agenda without all the extracurriculars, without the drama, without the narcissism. Without I call it stepping on a rake. Trump has a tendency to he's like a blind man in a field full of garden rakes. He's just constantly stepping on these rakes, and they're smacking him in the face, the unforced errors. So I didn't like that. I don't like the ad hominem attacks, the sophomoric insults, stuff like that. But also, I think that Governor DeSantis is just a more intellectual person. And I think that whereas Trump likes to work off his charm and shoot from the hip, DeSantis is much more of a planner. He does the 4 steps of the sales cycle. This is the problem. This is our solution. This is how we apply the solution. And this is the results. And so he has an end game in mind. I don't think Trump's so much like that. So Trump isn't really a finisher. He's not a closer. DeSantis is a closer. And you get to the results phase with him. So I like all these things about him. The intellect, his character, doesn't have all these indictments and all these sort of things. Great family life. He's younger. He can serve for 8 years. So many, many things that I like about him. I think he just checks every box as far as a better candidate for president. And that's why I'm on the DeSantis train.
Yeah. So for me, it was all of these things that I started to find out that Trump did legislatively, and also the attacks on DeSantis. Like I mentioned when I did your show, Your Voice, I did not like when he came after DeSantis about saying that Cuomo did a better job with COVID, and also coming after DeSantis with Disney. Also, it was the presidential commendation that Trump gave to Fauci. And then recently, Bill, I'm sure you've heard about this $400 million that Trump signed in the CARES Act that literally funded the ballot boxes, the election, all of the mail-in ballots that he campaigned, or he raised money on, the $250 million that he raised money on, all of the things that he's saying that is why he's being, why he had such a big deal, made such a big deal after the 2020 election. He actually funded. I'm just like, you've got to be kidding me. This is, you actually signed the
bill that funded
dagger that
he funded his own demise. He funded his own demise. Here's one of the problems I have with Trump. You know, Trump is not Trump is he's a savant in certain ways. You know, when it comes to deal making, so on and so forth, he's very good at that. He's a good speaker. He's good at the charisma and the showmanship and all that stuff. But he's not a terribly intellectual person. And I don't think that he really understands legislation to the granular level like Governor DeSantis does. And so he has this legislation put before him, and he doesn't really understand it. And so he's going to listen to the people around him. Should I sign this? Should I not? Yeah, go ahead and sign. He didn't really understand the repercussions. Now put Governor DeSantis in that same situation. Governor DeSantis would look at that legislation and say, wait a minute, there's some stuff in here that's going to cause some problems, because he understands it. He understands every little bit and piece about it. For instance, compared to a jigsaw puzzle, where Trump sees a picture of a jigsaw puzzle and it's a picture of a boat, and he says, oh, this is a nice picture of a boat. But Governor DeSantis sees all the individual pieces and how they fit together, whereas Trump just says, oh, it's a nice picture of a boat. So I think that he looked at this legislation, he didn't understand the pitfalls and the minefields that this created for him. And so this is one of the reasons why I want DeSantis, not just because Trump can be toxic and all these things, but I just think that DeSantis on a day-to-day basis will do a better job running the White House, whipping Congress, getting legislation through, and being effective and giving us, you know, data points and endpoints where we can evaluate and says, yes, that worked. No, that didn't work. I like that.
Yeah, you know, DeSantis is a extremely constitutionally minded attorney at the end of the day. And so who went to Yale and Harvard. Normally we're like, you went to Yale and Harvard. That's not something that, you know, as conservatives that we like to, you know, clamor over. But I think he was able to escape with his conservatism intact. And so because he has a great education, and because he does have a great understanding of the Constitution, I think it's going to, we've seen it already in Florida, where he has been able to use the levers of government and the law to get his goals and his agenda accomplished. And also setting up the legislator to make sure that those who would be in alignment with his agenda get elected as well. And so I think that's another area where Trump was not able to be very successful, because as we saw in the midterms, yes, he had a success rate of those who he endorsed. They were elected. I wondered though, were they already incumbents, or were these like actually brand new?
Oh, the people his success rate with his endorsements.
Yeah,
you know, he was successful with all the low-hanging fruit. I mean, the races that we were going to win anyway. He was successful with those. Yeah,
that's what
he was successful with those. Yeah, it's like, you know, you're standing at the finish line, you know, and it's a foot before the finish line. And you see who's going to win the race, and you're like, okay, well, I'm predicting this person will win the race. You know, of course, they're a foot from the finish line. But where he failed was, I believe I think it was either 60 or 70% failure rate with the people that were in the toss-up races in the battleground states. That's where he failed badly. And he's the reason why we didn't have the, you know, the red wave that we thought that we would have, especially in the Senate and some of these governorships and so on and so forth. So that was kind of a big, a big fail for him. And then he turned around and he blamed it on the evangelicals. He said, oh, listen, if these evangelicals had not gone, you know, sort of crazy on the abortion thing, we would have won this. You know, You don't want to be going after the evangelicals for that. You can't win. And now we're seeing in Iowa, which is the great barometer for the evangelical vote in America. And, people like Bob Vanderplas and so on and so forth, he's the evangelical, kingmaker in Iowa, and Trump has already kind of lost him. So I think he's going to have a real problem with the evangelical vote this time around. And a Republican can't win without that.
That's true. And then he didn't bother to go to that big event that Bob put on.
There's another big event he's not going to. There's another big event that's happening that I think the governor is having. Governor Reynolds is having this. He's not going to. So he's just, he's just not showing up there. In Iowa, like Governor DeSantis is. Governor DeSantis is like, I think Governor DeSantis did like 30 events in 3 days or something, like 10 events a day.
Something insane. He's doing like he's hitting all counties.
Right.
I mean, the ground game is just impeccable. And that is what that they did that here in Florida, too. I think people are going to be really surprised when they see how much he wins by in Iowa. Not that he just wins, but how much he wins by. And then I think that's going to trickle in the other primaries as well, like New Hampshire and the other subsequent primaries.
Well, Trump is building a firewall in New Hampshire. He's doing a lot of meetings and rallies and stuff in New Hampshire because I think he sees Iowa slipping away, and he's trying to build a firewall in New Hampshire. And then we get these crazy polls where he's ahead by 35 points or whatever. It's like he's not ahead by 35 points in New Hampshire. It's much closer than that.
Yeah. Well, that would be interesting to see, like how well he does in New Hampshire, if that's where he's putting his focus. Maybe he thinks that Iowa's already gone. So you are going to be coming up with Laura Loomer on the Tim Pool. What is it? Timcast, I think, right?
Yeah.
So how are you preparing? What are you doing? Is it going to be a debate, or are you guys going to just have like a casual conversation?
It'll probably be a round table. Tim will probably sit there in his host chair, and I'll sit there, and then Laura will sit there. And now I know Laura. She's going to come after me and try to attack me personally. That's what she does. I'm really there to debate the election. I could care less about the personal stuff, But I don't want to make it about that. I'm going on to that show because that's an audience that isn't typically listening to me. And so I want to make my points about Governor DeSantis, and we'll see if they are civil in the way they treat me. And I have lots of people warning me, Tim's going to come after you. Laura's going to come after you. It's like, listen, I've been doing this for a long time. I can deal with these people. I'm a very good debater. I can deal with these people. And, I just had a space the other day on Twitter that had like 1,300 people in it. And, I'm very good at handling them. So, if Laura comes at me personally, I will try to redirect her. But, one of the things when you're in my position, they say the tall trees catch the breeze. There have been over the years a lot of like really whoppers told about me that have had major news stories, full pages in newspapers and so on and so forth, and just complete fictions where I would read the story. I'm like, what? Why didn't they call and ask me about this? Because I could have debunked this whole thing right. But they were hit pieces, like on the Daily Beast and this sort of thing. Well, I hope that Laura brings those things up because I would love a chance in front of a big national audience to debunk these lies because they are preposterous. And I've debunked them a million times on Twitter, but they still come back. It's like the Trump thing with Charlottesville, where it's saying, there are good people on both sides. That's been thoroughly debunked, but it still comes back. Over and over again. So I look forward to a chance to do that. But, am I intimidated by Laura Loomer? No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't
Laura's
think
a nice girl, but I mean, she doesn't. No.
Yeah.
Or by anybody,
It's so funny. I've never seen someone quite so aggressive with a candidate. I'm sorry?
She's positively frantic. Laura,
Yeah, I mean, it's quite fascinating to watch. There's Laura, and there's a few others that I'm not as familiar with. But
Alex Bushowitz is
him, and then I think the Kasim, is it Kasim or Rashid?
Kasim is even the worst. He's the worst of all of them. Yeah, he uses a lot of misogynistic speech towards women, and he's not shy about it. And Laura Loomer just the other day came out and said that Governor DeSantis, Governor DeSantis is the number one governor in America. There's nobody's even close. And she said that Governor DeSantis is a terrorist and that he's using Casey DeSantis as a shield, like a terrorist would use a human shield. I'm like,
I've just never seen something like that. Why do you think there is this kind of vitriol. I mean, in politics, I know it can get,
Right.
it can get dirty. You can hit, you hit your opponent, you say all kinds of things, but I've never seen it quite like this before. Why do you think it's this level of vitriol?
Well, the disciples are emulating their master, right? Trump is their master. The old expression, the fish sinks from the head down,
Mm-hmm,
I mean, it's fruit of the poisonous tree. I can use all these metaphors with you, but Trump, by being toxic the way he is, he's given them license to do this. And it's a huge turnoff. It may score points with the core Trump base, which is about 25% of the GOP, but everybody else, it's just a massive turnoff, especially with independents, which Trump can't win without. Suburban mom stuff. They hate this. They hate these ad hominem attacks, these insults, like 12-year-olds on a playground. They hate that. And but Laura Loomer, it's just I did a space the other day, and she was in my space. Everybody doesn't know what a space is. It's a Twitter thing where you have a big vocal conversation with everybody.
Yeah.
And I had said, somebody said what I was doing for the DeSantis campaign, and I'm not paid by the DeSantis campaign. I don't work for the DeSantis campaign.
Neither do I. I don't get paid. I am a surrogate, but I am not. I don't get paid. Yeah.
And I said in this thing that part of my job is to keep everybody motivated and excited. And I was speaking metaphorically, my job, it's my job to keep everybody excited, Mm-hmm. And Laura Loomer went on Twitter and said, Bill Mitchell just admitted that he's a paid employee of the DeSantis campaign and it's his job. And it's like, what are you talking about? That's not what I said. I was just speaking metaphorically. Yeah, it's my job to keep everybody excited and motivated,
Yeah. It's so fascinating to me, to watch this sort of objectively. And I don't think that when all is said and done, that it's going to be a good thing for the campaign. And certainly, as a mom, as the show is about faith, culture, and politics, all geared towards the next generation for children. And I know a lot of kids aren't on, they're not watching the political side of Twitter. A lot of kids are on Twitter, but not watching the political side. But when these things do come out, I wonder if Laura or Alex or all these people, I don't think any of them have children now, but one day they will, prayerfully that they will. And they're going to have to answer, for the things that they said. And that's going to be a very uncomfortable conversation. What do you think?
It's a weird scene. And Laura tweeted the other day that she thinks she's going to become Trump's press secretary. It's like, Laura, he already rug pulled you. Trump dangled a job offer for her. She was all excited about it. And then Trump's people said, listen, you can't have her on your campaign staff. She's like loose cannon on deck times 10. She says crazy stuff. You can't have her. And so he rug pulled her, and it really embarrassed her publicly. And now she's saying, I'm going to be his press secretary and so on and so forth. And I'll protect him like nobody else, sort of like a mother cradling him in my arms, And it's just like, it's not going to happen, Laura. He's not going to make you his press secretary because, let me put it this way. If Donald Trump thinks you're too toxic, you're too toxic because Donald Trump is toxic. So if he thinks you're too toxic, it's like, my gosh, that's like on the Batman, the Joker thinking you're too much of a criminal, It's just out of control.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I hate to see it because to me, like when I see stuff like this, it speaks to there being like a deeper issue going on within that person. For with Donald Trump, we see that it's narcissism and, those kind of things. And, for Laura, Alex, and, these other people, it probably speaks to something that is, there's something else going on internally that they probably need to go.
I don't know. They're both, if you read their tweets from the past, they're both strange people. I mean, some of the things that Alex has said in the past, I can't repeat on a family show, but he said some very strange things.
Oh yeah.
On his Twitter feed in the past.
Insane. But it's good for Twitter, but a lot of times those things personally, especially when you get older and you start to think back, you're like, oh, why did I say that? And now
Twitter's forever, as they say.
Didn't have to go through this. You didn't have to go through this. Everything that you're saying is being documented. it's all being documented. And so,
It is forever.
10 years. This is like what we teach our children. Don't say anything crazy on that, that you might regret 10 years later, but they're going to have to deal with that. Why don't you tell people where they can find you and what else you have going on?
Sure. You can follow me on Twitter at Mitchell, VII. You can also go to my website, yourvoicenews.com, and that's where we have all of our shows. And I have my show, Your Voice America, which is a daily, and it can be 20 minutes one day, an hour one day. It depends on how many individual hits, but we tend to do like short hits, like 15, 20 minutes, and put them together in a full show, and we stream them on various platforms. And then, of course, the Your Voice America website. And we're also adding a bunch of new shows that we're going to have on, and not just politics, but all kinds of things, lifestyle shows and so on and so forth. And we have a lot of technology that we've figured out how to do that and to leverage it. So, somebody could come on to my network, and literally within a day, we can create a new show for them, and they can be recording and having this stuff out there. And so it's pretty cool. How it works. So that's what we're going to be doing, and continue to work. Right now, I'm interviewing a bunch of the surrogates for the DeSantis campaign, and hopefully, I'll have Governor DeSantis himself on soon.
Yeah.
I'm just it's fun. This is fun for me, and like I said, they're not paying us anything, but we're in money. We're being paid and doing the right thing for America. So that's what I'm all about.
Right. Well, sounds good. Thank you so much for coming on and chatting with me. So make sure you guys go and check out everything that Bill has going on. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.
Thank you. We'll see you soon.